Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to invite you to join us as Nicholas Zuba, our Deputy Director, and I hit the highlights of 2022 for the CPACE Alliance and give you a quick look ahead to what we expect to see in 2023. Last year, we continued our growth of membership. 5 new capital providers joined CPACE Alliance and a couple of law firms as well. This increasing membership, we believe, demonstrates that some of the best names in the business recognize the value of CPACE Alliance and would like to continue to support our work. We want to thank them for joining us in 2022 and bringing their expertise to the work that we do. The more capital providers and stakeholders that participate in CPACE Alliance, the stronger the industry becomes.
Yeah, I certainly want to echo those sentiments. I think that they definitely bring a lot of expertise as where they sit in the industry, and we definitely look forward to the partnership with them moving forward on what they bring to the industry and how we can basically advance it and move it forward. So we're definitely looking forward to working with all these partners and continuing to grow and expand them.
In 2022, we continued our practice of recognizing transactions that, and not just transactions, but the individuals who exemplify leading work in the CPACE industry. And we annually award or recognize those who do excellent work in policy and programs, environmental impact, public benefits, and do so efficiently. And we also recognize the Deal of the Year. These awards are, for more detail, please take a look at the CPACE Alliance website, where we have our award winners from 2022 and the years prior to that.
Yeah, and certainly congratulations, to all these award winners. I think they're all very deserving in this case. And I'd like to put a little feather in my cap, Cliff, if I'd like, in this case with regard to the Castle Green project. This happened to be the final project that I had the pleasure and the opportunity to review and approve when I was still the administrator of the Connecticut Green Bank CPACE program. So this was a fantastic project, really well done, and certainly was proud to have made that my final one to actually approve as a administrator there. But equally so to all these winners. I think they're all deserving in their own way, and we certainly invite you to learn more about them by going to our website to learn more about the winners. All right, and so we also did, I think, a lot of great work in this past year to increase the engagement that we had with our members, because we recognize that the pandemic really did a lot to disrupt our ability to work with people, in person, and to really being able to try and engage folks. And so we wanted to make a renewed effort to basically get more involvement with our members in this case, to show and add value in this case that their membership actually was bringing, obviously, and what they were getting out of being a member with the CPACE Alliance. And so the ways we demonstrated that is that we did an in-person member roundtable out in Las Vegas back in July of last year, in which case we were discussing very key issues and concerns that were brought up about the industry in this case. And it was just great to get people around the table during the course of that day, doing different kinds of activities and doing just discussions among the members. I think that we really came away with a lot of positive ideas and thoughts about how CPACE Alliance as a group could basically really move ahead on solving these particular issues in the industry. And so definitely, I think all of our members felt that this was a really productive format for discussing these issues. And then in addition to that, we did a series of different webinars last year as well, and we increased the amount of these webinars. So again, as a way to add value to our members in this case, and showing what they can get out of being members of our organization. So that included a really great discussion that we had with Mark Zandi, in which case was also co-hosted with our partner and our member Pace Equity, in which case they were touching on the condition of the commercial real estate market and what we really were expecting to see with those economic conditions in this case that we were seeing throughout 2022, which I'll get into talking about in a little while. But this was a really good conversation that was had really on this intersection and was informative to our CPACE Alliance members. And then certainly too, one of the big certain legislations that was passed last year on the federal level, that being the Inflation Reduction Act, we decided that this was a very important topic that I think that our members and as well as program administrators across the country would be interested in. And this was a very heavily attended event where we had almost 100 people attend this webinar to talk about really this intersection of the climate-related investments of Inflation Reduction Act and how it really can be a good leverage to CPACE, and how then even CPACE, I should say, is being the leverage in this case to the Inflation Reduction Act's public investments into the climate mitigating activities. And then lastly, we did a webinar on basically just best practices and lessons learned around how you would adopt CPACE on the local level. So this is really good, certainly in those states where there is a program administrator at the statewide level, in which case then local jurisdictions are expected to adopt the program and opt into that particular statewide administered program. Or certainly was, again, good discussion as well for those jurisdictions now, like say in a Tennessee or Washington state, where each individual county and area would actually set up and create their own program. And so this was really getting key people who are in different parts of the industry and as well as different administrators across the country, where we're just sharing their perspectives and thoughts on how best to do this. So this was also, too, I think, a very informative and a good topic for our members and other program administrators to hear.
One of the most important activities of CPACE Alliance is the work of the Legislative Committee. And the Legislative Committee directs CPACE Alliance to states where there's an opportunity to enact new bills. 4 bills were passed last year that CPACE Alliance was very much involved in. But in addition to new legislation, we also work on model program documents at the local level in order to facilitate local governments opting into a program and being able to use our model documents if they wish, as a way to quickly expedite the adoption of the program. We were deeply involved in launching 3 programs in 3 states, multiple local governments involved and adopted in Washington, Nevada, and Tennessee. And we also, beyond the adoption of individual programs, we're often asked to provide industry comments on revised program guidelines or other changes in documentation. And in 8 different states last year, states and cities and agencies, CPACE Alliance commented extensively and provided our input into their decision-making. For the first time last year, CPACE Alliance was selected as the contractor to help update program documents. And both in New Mexico and Alaska, I want to acknowledge the great work in Alaska that Nicholas did to help lead that effort. So these are the ways that CPACE Alliance helps open new markets and create more opportunity for the industry and our members. Maybe there's a little bit of burying the lead here, but that handsome man is Nicholas Zuba. Nice picture, Nick, who joined as Deputy Director in the middle of the year. We're thrilled that Nick brings his experience in working both at local government and at a program administrator and at a capital provider, multiple perspectives that he is able to bring to his position as deputy in our organization.
Well, appreciate that very much, Cliff. And again, I appreciate to go from my thanks and certainly then leading into the next point to our board of directors for bringing me on board. Excited certainly of the work that we have accomplished in 2022 and looking forward to 2023 and beyond and continuing to do this work. And just to know, that picture, by the way, is me 8 years younger. So I've certainly put on a few more years in this case, a few more wrinkles now in the face, but still, nonetheless, still committed to this work. But anyway, but basically, the other sort of ways that we've expanded capacity and kind of restructured ourselves for growth is basically that we've added members now to our board of directors, as well as to our legislative committee, because we do believe that getting more diverse opinions and thoughts from other members of our organization in this case is just certainly vital in terms of promoting and for continuing the vitality and certainly the longevity really of our organization. Because I think if we just have one way of thinking all at one point or any time, we may not necessarily grow, I think, to the way that we would want to see. So having that recycling of people in this case and getting some new people into these different governmental and organizational bodies that we have here in the CPACE Alliance is only going to be to our benefit and to the organization's longevity and vitality, I think, moving forward. And then basically the other sort of development that we did to also better expand our capacity and just in our knowledge in this case of what's happening in the industry, we basically signed on to basically getting tracking software for both tracking state level and local level developments regarding CPACE. So for state level, it's a platform called Fiscal Note, and for the local governments called Curie. It's all made by the same software provider. And that has really been very helpful, I think, in us getting out in front more on these developments that occur at both the state and the local levels. And definitely is a very helpful resource that I think all of us in the industry, I think, we're going to find useful as we continue to propel this industry forward.
In the middle of 2022, we also restructured our organization as a Delaware nonprofit, and we submitted application to the IRS for status as a trade association, and that I think reflects the fact that we are advocating for the business and the industry as a whole, and the nonprofit structure is well suited to this. And 501c6 status puts us on good ground going forward. And while it's a technical restructuring, it's important for the organization's longevity to have a durable structure. And we're glad to have made this evolutionary step in that way.
All right, and then basically, we all have been seeing the headlines. We all recognize that there have been definitely these different economic headwinds that really showed themselves in 2022 that could have put a damper on the growth of the CPACE industry, whether that be rising interest rates to get under control, then the higher inflationary rates that we had also seen throughout the year. Certainly, you could expect those could be headwinds that could certainly disrupt economic opportunity and activity. And then, we probably would maybe have seen that could have been a real good reason for seeing CPACE growth be hampered as a result. But that's not necessarily what we saw, and that's really the good news here. So CPACE volume was projected to grow year over year, even in 2022, where they were projecting to see over $1 billion worth of financing that deployed throughout the year, even despite those pressures. And in which case, then the cumulative total that we then saw for the industry when CPACE has been around, about $4.2 billion worth, and especially that's made over 3,000 projects all across the United States. So once again, CPACE just continues to show it's growing, and that even despite those economic pressures, it's showing that CPACE is seen as a valuable tool in this case still to get then energy costs and then these other issues basically in their buildings addressed. And so they continue to see the value of that. And of course, too, the other thing that we've seen as a trend, even despite these headwinds, is that these projects are getting larger and larger across the country. Now, the reasons for that is that we're seeing more new construction financings because that particular type of a program and offering in this case is now being seen in more and more programs across the country. Whether it was in pre-existing programs that now have adopted new construction, or certainly as we adopt brand new programs for the very first time in a state, that we include new construction right at the very inception of the creation of that program. And, as case in point, as we're saying that these projects are getting larger, the largest one now that we've seen to date was one done by one of our partners, Petros Pace Finance, for $153 million in Utah. And again, that's just the CPACE portion of a bigger development project, where $153 million in CPACE financing was granted for that project to make it more sustainable and more energy efficient of a building that was going to be designed. So even despite these headwinds, and again, the issues that we've seen with the economy, that has not appeared to have caused any kind of disruption to the CPACE industry. And we're hopeful that with what we're seeing and continuing to see is good news, that the inflation continues to go down, as we even just heard about today. We are hopeful that trend will continue and we'll see more CPACE financings get done all across the country.
This is the last slide, Nicholas, and I think this exemplifies the two big themes that we want to emphasize, which is that the industry is growing and that CPACE Alliance itself is increasing in capacity. As we look forward to this coming year, we are going to be very active in efforts to pass CPACE legislation in the Southeast and the North and the Southwest, but we'll be looking for opportunities around the country. And we're very involved in making sure that there's actual implementation of the program where legislation has been passed. And you see here a number of states where CPA is actively working with local advocates to launch programs and to promote their use of the kinds of practices that have been successful elsewhere. So I'm very optimistic about the future of our industry and the future of our organization. And I think the signs are all positive for the strength and the attractiveness of this financial product. Nicholas, do you have any other final thoughts?
No, I mean, I'll just simply echo certainly those sentiments. And then what I'll just simply add is that, we look forward to working on all these different activities again here in 2023. And we're excited to work not only with our membership, but also with fellow CPACE program administrators all across the country to continue to grow and expand and to improve upon the CPACE industry so we can get as many of these projects financed as possible, and so that we can continue to combat climate change in all the corners of the country that sees it at this point. So we're just really excited to work with all of these partners and stakeholders to keep on advancing the industry forward.
Thank you, and we look forward to working with you in the coming year. That's the end of our review of the highlights.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And of course, we all look forward to working with you all in the coming year. Take care.